Hi, within this section, we're going to learn some essential methods that will make our life easier when we try to code some ethical hacking tools. And also, we're going to see a new script editor called Sublime Text, and we're going to use that script editor with command line with terminal in order to run some Python codes. So now, if you're ready, let's get started.
Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to learn about some very useful methods that will make our life easier when we are trying to code some ethical hacking softwares. Actually, not only in ethical hacking, but also in general Python programming as well. So let me create a new notebook from here and start learning about these useful methods. So let me rename this before we start to useful methods, okay? And useful methods, and then click rename here. So first, we're going to learn something about lists. So as you have seen before, we always need some lists, right? We create some lists manually here by saying that my list is now 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 6, 7. Okay? And then maybe we do something like for loop in this list, like for number in my list, and with a colon print number. And this works well, right? So what if there is a better way to create? There is an easier way to create lists actually. And Python has a built-in method for that. And this is called range. Okay? So we can create some ranges and we can use that ranges to just create lists. Okay? What if we have to create a list from 0 to 20, for instance? It would be harder for us to just write every number inside of that list. What if we need a list from 1 to 1000? Okay, so let me write down this as a heading here, range, and this is how we create the range. So if you just type range, it will be green because this is a built-in function. Like if you give it 20, it will create a range between 0 to 20. So how do we convert this range to an actual list? You have to cast that as a list, right? So if I do that, now it will give me an output starting from 0 up to 19. So the first index is starting index and the last one is stopping index. So if I do something like this for number in list range 20, then with a colon print number, it will just multiply it by 5. It will just multiply it by 5 and create the new list for me. So I didn't have to just write every element, every number in that list. It just made it easy for me, right? So let's suppose I wanted to start this from index 5 all up to the way 20. Can I do that? Of course. Like for num in list range 5 and then comma 20. Okay, so all we were doing actually was 0 to 20. Now I'm doing 5 to 20. And if I hit number, as you can see, now I have a list starting from 5 and stopping at 19. So we can use this like 5 to 21 if we want to include 20 as well. So this is the same principle that we have learned in the slicers. Okay, starting points, stopping points, and on the top of that, we can use stepping size as well, right? So if I say 3 here, it will have a step size of 3, so it will add 3 and skip 6 and 7, then 9 and 10. If you have 4 as a stepping size, it will start at 5, 9, 13, 17. So this is the same thing that we have learned in the slicer section. Now you have a very powerful tool to make your lists efficiently. So let's move on and learn about something called enumeration. Okay, so what if you want to work with indexes as well? So let me mark down this as enumeration, and actually let me go and select markdown from here and start writing again as a heading enumeration. Enumerate. Okay, so what if I want to get indexes of the current elements in a list? Can I do that without any helpful method, without any additional methods? Of course we can, right? We have the for loop, we can create a new variable for our index and get the indexes out of each element. So the first element will be index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So how do we do that? For num in, okay, for number in, let's create the list with range, since we have learned how to do that, from 0 up to 10, and all I want to do is just print the number, and it will give me a list of 10 to 9, right? But what if I want to get the indexes as well? So what do? We create a new variable here, okay, like index, and it will start with 0 because lists start with index 0, as we know, right? And aside from number, we can print the index as well. Let's use the formatting that we have learned before. So place an F in here, and all I want to do is just number is with curly braces number, and the index, okay, index is with curly braces index. And after this, if I hit shift enter, I will see number is 0 and index is 0, but index will be 0 for everything because I didn't do this. Index is now plus equals 1. So if I hit shift enter right now, now I see the current numbers and current indexes of that numbers. So this is a little confusing. Let me just change the range from here from 5 to 15, for example. And if I hit shift enter, I will see the number 5 is at index 0, number 6 is at index 1. Okay, this is more clear right now. So what does it have to do with enumeration, enumerate method? So enumerate method actually lets us do this operation easily. So how do we use it? We begin by creating our for loop again, and we have to create a new list. Okay, so let me just say this is for number in list range and 5 to 15 again. So instead of printing the numbers and the indexes from scratch, let me just give this enumerate function in here, okay? And close the parentheses, and I have to spell it out correctly, of course. Now I have given this enumerate function in here. It will enumerate this list and print out the indexes and the numbers for me automatically. Okay, so let's try this and see how this works. Let me actually correct it in here as well. And again, let me actually change this to item or element, doesn't matter, but we were using the number for a long time right now, and hit shift enter. As you can see, the element is now enumerated and we see the index and the number respectively. Okay, the first element in this enumeration is index, and the second element is the number itself. So we have an automatic way to do this. Okay? So let me give you another example using these enumerate methods. What if I want to cast this as a tuple like we used to do before? Of course, we can do that for index and number. Let me just give a parenthesis in here. Of course, we don't have to do that, but I prefer it this way. In enumerate, list, range, and 5 to 15. So now if I say print index, it will just print out the index, and if I say print number, it will just print out the number. As we can see, it starts with the index first, then the number, index number, index number. Okay? So in that way, you can get the indexes and the elements in a list respectively. So let's stop here and continue with the next lecture where we will learn about more useful methods. Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to continue learning some very useful methods and essentials of Python. We're going to continue with the random first. Okay, so let me choose Markdown from here and write this as a heading, random. So, as its name suggests, random methods lets us create random numbers or some random operations. Why do we even need that? Maybe you wanna write a game using Python and you need a random number. Or maybe you're just creating another software and you need a random number between 1 and 10 for some reason. Actually, we come across this kind of problem in real life situation often. So Python has a library built in for random as well. And we can use this library, we can use this module package, and we will see what they are in the following sections. Don't worry if you don't know what a module or package means. We will use that random, and in order to use it, we will say import random. Okay, and this import means importing some kind of package or external library to our own project. But in this case, we only need random, so I will say from random import rand int. Okay, so we're just taking a portion out of that library actually, because we only read random integer right now, and we will see some other modules as well. Random integer lets us create random integers. It's very literal. But how do we do that? We have to give it a range, okay? So all we have to do is just say random int, rand int, and open parentheses, and say 0 to 1000. So it will create a random number between 0 and 1000. So if I do this one more time with the exact command, like you see, we get some different results because they are completely random. There is a very small chance that you get the same result over and over again. So what can we do more with random? We can shuffle some lists. How do we do that? Let's suppose we have a list called mylist2, and this is again list range 1 to 10. Okay, and if you call mylist2, you will see that this starts from 0 and all the way up to the 9. But I want it shuffled. I don't want starting from 0 to 9. Maybe I want 5, 4, 9, 7. I don't know. So if we import from random, import shuffle, and if we say shuffle mylist2, like this, shuffle mylist2, and if we hit shift enter, now mylist2 is shuffled actually. Now if I call mylist2, as you can see, now this is randomly distributed rather than consequently increasing. So we can use this, and this will come in handy when you will face this kind of problems in ethical hacking programming. Okay? So, let me mark down another method for you, and this is called zipping. Okay? So, like this. So, why do we use zip anyway? Imagine that you have multiple lists and you want to combine them together. So we can use the zip method in order to do that. Let's suppose that we have 3 individual lists and we want to create a new list combining all of these elements. Maybe we can achieve that by writing very complex for loops within nested each other, right? But we don't have to do that actually, because we have a built-in function that does that easily without struggling the program, without having to consume too much RAM for us. So let's suppose I have a sport list in which I have running, swimming, and let's say basketball, for instance. Run, swim, and basketball. And in another list, we have some calories list, okay? So maybe running is 100 calories, and swimming is 200 calories, and basketball is 300 calories. And let's suppose that I'm writing a fitness app and I have a schedule here, like day list, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, so I'm assigning some sport to the consumer, to the user, and I'm letting the user know the calories of that list. But for some reason I don't have dictionaries, because this is not actually a pair, but I have 3 individual lists. So if I say zip sport list and calories list and finally the day list, it will zip it and save it in a memory location. Okay, so this is where it's saved in my computer. But in order to get this as a list, I had to save the zip as a list. Then let me just create a new list variable and say shift enter. Let's see if I can get that. I won't get that because I still didn't convert it into a list. I didn't cast this as a list, right? So what do you do if you come across this kind of a problem? All you have to do, go hover over the zip and hit shift tab, and you will see the documentation, and you will see this will return some zipped object. Okay, so this is a zip object, not a list. So yeah, I had to cast this as a list in order to make this work, right? So when I'm creating that new list up here, not down in here, but up here, all I have to do is just say new list and cast this as a list. And if I hit shift enter right now, my new list will be actually a list. Now, as you can see, I have all of this combined together, and I can reach them easily by creating a for loop, right? Now I can just place them into the user as one element. So let's do that for element in new list with a colon print elements, and it will print out the individual elements for us. So I think we are done here. Let's stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to see some advanced methods of lists. Hi! Within this lecture we're going to cover some advanced methods regarding lists. Okay, so let me mark this down by saying list advanced here. And actually you're not going to use this very much, but you can come across when you're browsing through internet or GitHub or some Python code, so it's better that you know what this means. So let me create a new list, but initially it will be empty. And remember, when we say new list and this will be an empty list, then we could have said new list.append and append to 1. Now if I call new list, it will be a list containing 1. right? We have learned about this before. So let me delete these lines because this won't be my real example in here. I just wanted to show you, remind you how this works. So let me go up here, edit, delete cells. So now what I actually want to do is to create a new list, an empty list, and create a string and get that letters out of that string and append them into a list. So like my string is Metallica, for example, and I want to get every letter from that string using for loop, of course, for element in my string with a colon, new list dot append element. And as you might guess, it will just take Metallica and append them in a list as individual elements. So if I call new list, as you can see now, I have all the letters appended as a list. So this is not advanced, of course, we have seen this before, but there's a representation, an advanced representation that will do the same thing in a one single line. Okay, so let me write this down for you. So new list will be a list, and this will be element for element in my string. Don't worry, I will explain what this does. So if I hit Shift Enter right now, and if I call my new list, I will see the exact same result. So what's happening here is actually the same thing with that code, right? So let me explain what's happening in here step by step. So I'm creating a new list and I'm casting this whole thing as a list in here, right? So I'm creating a list out of that element for element in my string thing. And element for element is in my string means that go to my string and take every element as element, okay? Take every element in that string and cast this to a variable called element and append that element in a list. So what happens if I want to change that element? Let me create a new list and you will understand it better. Let's work with numbers this time. Number for number in my number list. So I don't have a list, so let me create with list and range in here, and we get an error because I didn't say in, I said multiply. Okay, let me say in, and if I call new list 2 right now, I will see that it's appended to my new list. What if I want to just take these numbers and cast it to a variable called number, but then append this as a change value, like multiply all of them by 5? Then I would have said number times 5 for number in list. Okay, so this is just a representation of for loop in a one single line, and if I say like this, it will just take the power to the 5, and this is practical, as you can see. As I said before, maybe you won't use this very much in your own programming, but you may come across this, and in order not to get you confused, I just wanted to show you that these methods exist, and you may of course use it anytime you need it. So we are done with the useful methods part here. Let's stop here at this point, and within the next lecture we're going to cover Sublime Text Editor. Hi, within this lecture we're going to see how to work with other script editors or other IDEs rather than Jupyter Notebook, because most of the time you won't be dealing with the Jupyter Notebook with Python in real life examples. You will need a real script editor where you write your program and then after test it. So first I'm going to open a browser here. Okay, I have Edge. You can just open whatever you want. Then I will search for Sublime Text in google.com. Okay, so Sublime Text is a text editor, and the website is very easy actually, sublimetext.com. And if you go over here, maybe these visuals can be changed while you are watching this. It doesn't matter. All you have to do is just find the download section. Okay, so I'm clicking here to download, and since I'm using Windows right now, it will just automatically download the Windows version for me. So after this is finished, and this is a very small script editor, so it will just finish instantly, and I'm going to double click on the installer here. Okay, I'm going to say yes and install the script editor by hitting next here, and then after install. So this is installing right now and it's already finished. As you can see, this is a pretty little script editor and pretty helpful when it comes to writing Python codes. So let me find the Sublime Text by searching from here and open it. Sublime Text is not only for Python, but you can actually write other programming languages as well in here. So let me make this into a full screen, and as you can see, there is a blank page in here, and I just can start coding here instantly. Okay, but before we do that, bear in mind that Sublime Text doesn't know what I'm writing right now. So if I type print, as you can see, it doesn't highlight print in green or any other different colors. As you might remember, we did that in the Jupyter Notebooks. Since this is a built-in Python function, Jupyter Notebooks highlighted it with another color. But Sublime Text doesn't even know that this is a Python code. So if I type hello world right here, all I see is just white or gray code. But if I save this file from here, like save as, and let me save it into a desktop, and let me create a new folder called Python projects. Of course, you can just save it to the desktop as well, or documents as well. Now I will just name this example but .py. Okay, example.py. So py stands for Python file, and as you can see now it's highlighted according to Python procedures. Now let me go here from menu to settings, and here you can find the settings that you can change about Sublime Text. For example, maybe you realize that the font is very small right now, so you see the current values in the left pane, and if you just copy the current values that you want to change, like this font here, and paste it in the right side, okay, let me copy this and paste it in here under curly braces, between curly braces, and then I can change the type. Okay, I can change the value. If I save it, as you can see, font size increased. Maybe it's better to have 24. Yeah, I think it's better, so we can see it clearly. Now I can write Python code, right? This is saved as py file, and it's highlighting for Python, and now I can run and write a Python code. As you can see, this is a little bit different than Jupyter Notebook, so we don't get the output of our code instantly. We did that in the Jupyter Notebook while we were learning Python fundamentals, but here we write the code and then execute it, like here go tools, for example, and you will see some options here like build. Now if I build here, it will build the code that I have written and display the output for me. So let me click on that and select Python from here, and as you can see, we got the output below. But this is not the only way to do that, and we will see the alternative in the next lecture. But for right now, let me create another code here, like let me create a list with some numbers in it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay, with commas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And let me do a simple for loop again for number in my list. You know how to do that, right? And as you can see, this gives me auto completion right now, the thing that we didn't have in actually in the Jupyter notebook. So for number in my list, print number. So if I compile this, if I build this, let me show you what I got in return. So let's go to tools again and say build. As you can see, we got the list here as individual elements. Now let me save this file. As I said before, it is not only way to run this Python code. Actually, we rather use terminal or command prompt to run Python codes while we are programming. And we're going to learn how to do that in the next lecture. Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to see how to run Python codes that we have written in Sublime Text with command prompt in Windows. So let me close this down because we already saved it, and open here and type cmd. Okay? If you type cmd, you will see the command prompt here. So choose the command prompt and open it. So this is like a terminal in Linux. Okay, you know how to use it actually, but it's a little bit different in Windows. So we have different commands. Like we had ls in the Linux, now we have dir here. Okay, it shows us current working directory listings. So if you type dir, you will see the available folders and files in your current working directory. Like we have desktop, documents, downloads, links, and everything in IE user over here. Okay, and if you want to go to the desktop, for instance, all you have to do is just type cd and space with the directory name that you want to go in. So cd desktop, and this of course stands for change directory. So this is the same with Linux, right? And again, we are under desktop. If I call dir, I will see that I have a Python projects directory in here. So now I want to go into that. So what will I do? I will of course say cd Python projects, and if I hit tab in after writing like pyt, it will just autocomplete for me. Now under this Python projects, I have my example.py file in here, and eventually we will run this, but for right now let me show you some more commands. If I type cls, it will clear the screen. So it was clear in the Linux, now it's cls in here. Okay, and if I want to go back to the previous directory, what do? I do cd ... and this is the same again. So I can just go back to another thing like cd Python projects. Now I'm back in my Python projects. So if I call dir right now, I will see that I have still example.py file in here. And in order to run this file, in order to run this Python code, all I want to do is just write python example.py. And as you can see, I see the output here in my command prompt. So if I had converted this file to an exe and just open it in a Windows machine, I would have seen this output in a command prompt, okay? So this is really simulating what's going to happen when I just finish my app, finish my software, and deploy it. So this is how you run Python commands in Windows. Now we're going to see Sublime Text in Mac, so if you don't have Mac, you can just skip it. Hi! Within this lecture, we're going to see how to work with script editors, and we're going to work with a script editor called Sublime Text. Okay, so I'm opening a browser here. I'm going to google.com in order to Google Sublime Text. So actually this will lead me up to a website called sublimetext.com. You can actually go directly to sublimetext.com as well. So these visuals can be changed in time while you are watching this, but it doesn't matter. All you have to do is just find the download section in here. Okay? So Sublime Text is a text editor where we can write Python code and also where we can write other scripts as well. So let me download this. Just click on here, download for Mac, and it will start downloading. And this is very little file. This is a very small file. As you can see, it's already downloaded for me. So all I have to do is just double click on this download and close this, or you can find wherever you saved it, and all you have to do is just take this Sublime Text and put it in the applications folder. So now it's done. If I right click here, I will say eject, and now the Sublime Text editor is saved on my applications. If you can find it here, it's okay. If you cannot find it, just hit space and command and search for Sublime Text. And once you found it, just open it, say open to here, and it will pop open. As you can see, we have a blank page in here where we can write Python code right now. We can immediately start writing like print hello world. But as you can see, it doesn't highlight or change the color of the print or hello world. We did that in the Jupyter notebooks, right? Since print was a Python built-in function, it showed it in different colors. But as I said before, we can write other programming languages in Sublime Text as well. So I have to save this as a Python file in order to let Sublime know that this is a Python code. So click here, save as, and just choose wherever you want to save this. Like I'm gonna save this under desktop, or you can create a new folder for that actually. Let's save this with example.py. Okay, and py stands for Python file, and as you can see now, this is colored. This is highlighted because print is a Python built-in function. So let me go here and go to the settings, where I will change the font size, because as you can see, this is now very small. Let me go to Sublime Preferences here, and you will see this left and right pane in Preferences. So in left pane we see the current values of settings, and in right pane we will change them. So select this font, for example, copy it and paste between the curly braces, and you can give it a new value. For example, let me give 24 and save this from file, and as you can see now fonts are bigger. So you can just change the settings from here, and after that you can save and close this. And now we have a bigger print hello world in here. And I think this is not big enough right now, so let me go to preferences one more time, and in here let me do this 28. I think this will be better. Let me save this and close this. And yeah, I think it's a little bit better right now. So now we are ready to write Python code because this is now saved as py, and Sublime Text actually knows that we are writing Python code. So how do we run our code? How do we build our code? We don't see the immediate output like we do in Jupyter notebooks, right? So let me make this a little bit smaller so we can see the menu here as well. Now if I go to tools here and say build, it will build my code and show me the output below. As you can see, we see the hello world from here. Now if I write another code, like if I create a list right now, like my list is equal to 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, and then let me do some very simple for loop for num in my list. And as you can see, it shows me the auto completion right now, and if I hit tab or just choose it from here, it will auto complete for me. So this is better compared to Jupyter Notebook. So we'll say print num, and if I compile this once again, I will see that I have the elements here individually. So we have to use some real script editors and IDEs when we're really writing Python software, okay? And Sublime Text is a rather good tool to have in your computer and write quick Python codes. So we don't have only option to run these codes, but actually we're going to use terminal to run our Python codes, and we're going to see how to do that in the next lecture. Hi, within this lecture, we're going to see how to run our code with terminal as well. So I'm saving this file, I'm closing it down because we are done with it. So let me create a new folder actually in my desktop and name it Python projects, for instance, and just store the Python projects in this folder, okay? So this way I'll be more structured and ordered. So let me open my search bar by clicking Command and space in my keyboard and search for terminal. So this is no different than Kali Linux terminal, okay? And let me zoom in a little bit so we can see it better. And this is no different than Kali Linux, as I was saying, because they are both based on Unix. So most of the commands are the same. So this is actually more familiar to you rather than Windows command prompt. So I'm in my current working directory in my user right now, and I want to see the contents of my folder. So what do I call? Of course, ls. So this will list me all the available folders and files in my current working directory. So now I'm in my user, and what I want to do, I want to go to the desktop, right? Because that is where my file is saved. So if I type pwd, it will show me the current working directory. I'm in users until Sam. Now I will go to desktop. So what do I do to go to the desktop? If you said cd desktop, then you guessed it right. All you have to do is just cd desk, and if you hit tab, it will autocomplete for you. You will go to your desktop. Now if I call pwd, I'm in my desktop right now, and if I call ls, I will see the Python projects folder in here. Of course, I can go to Python projects with cd python projects command. Now I'm inside Python projects. If I call ls, I will see this example.py file that we have created before. Now in order to run this example.py file, let me first clear the screen. So let me right clear and hit enter. And before we move on and run this Python command, let me show you how to go to the previous directory. And this is the same with Linux as well. All you have to do is just cd space ... and it will take you to the previous directory that you were in. So we are in desktop right now. If I call cd python projects, I will go back. So now you know how to work with terminal, Mac OS terminal, okay? So if I call Python example.py right now, it will just run my code, and as you can see, we see the output here. So this is a real simulation of how my software works, how my software behaves. Okay, so we're going to use this Python code, Python terminal a lot in Kali Linux as well. So let's stop here, and within the next lecture we're going to see how to work with functions.
Hi! Now within this section you have learned about some very useful methods, and you also learned about how to install Sublime Text and how to write some Python scripts in that script editor in order to run it from the terminal or command line. We're going to use these information a lot within our ethical hacking tools. So now you're ready to move forward to the next section where we dive into the details of Python a little bit more.